Six Flags Mexico is Latin America's best theme park. If I were to describe this park using other Six Flags parks, it's a blend of Six Flags Fiesta Texas and New England. You have the superior atmosphere and theming of Fiesta Texas. Then you have the ride lineup of New England, meaning it is extremely top-heavy with 2 elite coasters and a bunch of clones. In this review, I will explain why this park is worth visiting and everything you need to know about it, particularly how different it is from other Six Flags parks. Reino Aventura opened in 1982 as the largest theme park in Latin America. Shortly after opening, the park gained notoriety for installing one of the first Vekoma boomerangs, and this ride still runs at this park to this day. Then in 1985, the park received an orca from Marineland. Keiko the killer whale would perform shows daily. The park underwent some major changes in 1993. After closing the year prior, the park reopened as Nuevo Reino Aventura. This included several new rides. That same year, Keiko starred in the movie Free Willy. While the movie went on to become a cult classic, public outcry from the film demanded that Keiko be freed. So in early 1996, the park donated their orca to the Oregon Coast Aquarium. In 1999, Reino Aventura was purchased by Premier Parks, who had also recently acquired Six Flags. So in 2000, the park was rebranded as Six Flags Mexico. Along with the name change, the park added a dozen new rides, including 2 new roller coasters. The park has continued to grow over the past 2 decades, cementing their place as the best theme park in the region. Six Flags Mexico is located in the Tlalpan Forest. This is on the southwestern edge of Mexico City. This location has some pros and cons. On the bright side, it is incredibly scenic. The tallest rides offer stunning views. You overlook the city skyline with mountains in the distance. But there are 2 cons. First, Mexico City has an extremely high elevation. It is 7,526 feet, or 2,294 meters above sea level. That is about 2,000 feet higher than Denver, so it's quite common to suffer from altitude sickness. I have had to battle nosebleeds and headaches in my visits to the park. Staying hydrated is key for me. This can be particularly problematic in the summer months given how hot and humid it gets. I've had much more pleasant experiences visiting this park in the winter when it's cooler and drier. Second, this park can be a bit frustrating to access. There's a bus with a stop directly across from the park, but you'll need multiple connections from the airport or downtown area. If you arrive by car, I think parking is surprisingly free, but traffic in Mexico City is brutal. Give yourself plenty of time if traveling during peak hours. The roadways are often congested and chaotic. I would not feel comfortable driving here. Instead, I strongly recommend Uber. It is safe, plentiful, and affordable. On that note, if you're looking for somewhere to stay near the park, I would suggest the Radisson Paraiso Hotel. It is just a short drive from the park, reasonably priced, and the staff members speak English if you're not fluent in Spanish. As with any Six Flags park, I strongly recommend the season pass. It is a much better value than a day ticket. A single day ticket costs 999 pesos, or $56 US. Meanwhile, an annual pass to this park alone costs 1,200 pesos, or $67 US. It's an extra fee to add additional Six Flags parks. The arrival experience is familiar to other Six Flags parks. After passing through a metal detector, you can go straight to the turnstiles if you have a season pass or membership. Your pass will scan there as normal, even if you have a different home park. This park actually has 2 entrances. Most people use the main entrance, but there's also a back entrance by Justice League and Batman the Ride. One important policy with Six Flags Mexico that's different from all other parks in the chain is that this park does not allow re-entry. There are signs stating this adjacent to all park exits. I found that out when I wanted to run in the parking lot briefly midday to get some off-ride shots of Superman. This park is fairly easy to navigate. The park mostly forms a large loop. Then both entrances start at the bottom of a hill and form an L shape to connect with the central loop. While it is annoying to have to start your day with an uphill climb, the main loop itself is fairly flat once you're up there. As I alluded to at the start, this is a very nice looking park. It is the second prettiest park in the chain in my opinion after Fiesta Texas. The theming is better quality and more plentiful than other parks. Let's run through the different areas. If you enter through the main entrance, you will be greeted by Pueblo Mexicano, or Mexican Village. You have this nice looking plaza with a teacup ride and some colorful buildings behind it. Then behind all that, you have Medusa's steel coaster looking absolutely monstrous because it's located atop the hill. This area continues uphill, past some additional buildings and a working stone aqueduct. This leads to Pueblo Francés, or French Village. This is a double-decker carousel and a large stage where the park performs shows. Continuing clockwise, you have Pueblo Vaquero, or Cowboy Village. This is a Western-themed area. You will find a land like this at a lot of Six Flags parks, but the area here is narrower and denser, so it feels more immersive. Next, you'll hit the two areas targeted towards kids. DC Super Friends is themed to comic book heroes and villains. There's a nice plaza by Dark Knight with all sorts of character meet and greets. Then each ride is themed to a different character. Bugs Bunny Boomtown feels familiar to the Looney Tunes kids areas across the chain. You have a mix of kid-friendly rides and statues dedicated to various characters. Except this one does have a castle towards the back of the area. You'll also find a castle in the next area, Pueblo Suizo, or Swiss Village. This area is a bit underwhelming. It is so small that you don't even realize you're in a different area. Next comes Via Hollywood. This is another underwhelming section in my opinion. The theme is not all that noticeable, and it feels like a generic unthemed land at another Six Flags park. This leads into DC Universe. Here, you will find several larger rides themed to DC properties. It is worth noting that both Superman El Ultimo Escape and Joker are not in this area despite being themed to DC properties. Those are closer to the front of the park. The final area is Pueblo Polinesio, or Polynesian Village. This is the greenest area of the park. It has quite a bit of shade, and the landscaping and buildings give it a tropical vibe. Along with the appearance of the individual lands, a few attractions have some highly themed and unique queue lines. Superman El Ultimo Escape starts by taking guests through the offices of the Daily Planet. It eventually opens up to a sea of switchbacks, but it is a fun touch at the start. Joker's queue ends with an actual funhouse. I would argue this is an attraction in itself. You have all sorts of tricks and gags that'll test your balance. Medusa's queue line starts off with a themed crooked house that was repurposed from the former La Cabana del Tío Chueco. It is extremely easy to lose your balance if you're not holding on. And the park smartly placed the Flash Pass merge points such that you get to experience these unique elements. On that note, I would strongly consider investing in the Flash Pass if you're visiting from a distance. This park can get some very long waits. I have seen rides with waits regularly exceed an hour. In one of my visits, I saw Medusa posted as a 3-hour wait. Flash Pass works a bit differently at this park compared to all other Six Flags properties. The other parks in the chain offer all-day unlimited options. At this point, most parks offer this service on your phone. At Six Flags Mexico, you purchase a physical ticket on the day of your visit. This can be purchased at a few shops inside the park, most notably the gift shop by Superman's Exit. The regular Flash Pass lets you skip 3 rides. The Platinum Flash Pass lets you skip 10 rides. The regular tier typically costs 200 pesos, or $11 US. The Platinum tier typically costs 500 pesos, or $28 US, but the prices can vary by day. Rides included in the service are Superman El Ultimo Escape, Medusa's Steel Coaster, Joker, Boomerang, Batman the Ride, Rio Salvaje, and Aquaman Splashdown. If you have membership skips, the park will give you an additional one-time ticket to use. There is no time commitment when the skips must be used. When you redeem one, you are often admitted directly into the station and should have a minimal wait. It is worth noting the Flash Pass is for a single person. I saw a few groups bring a single ticket to the merge point, but the attendant would only allow one person through. It is also worth noting the ride availability can be a bit confusing. First, the park website may not be entirely up to date. Prior to my visit in 2018, Medusa was not listed on the website as being on the Flash Pass, but Medusa thankfully was included in the list of Flash Pass rides once inside the park. Conversely, their Starflyer was listed as a Flash Pass ride on the website, but it is still not offered on the service today. Second, there are 2 additional rides only available on the Platinum tier. Those 2 rides are the Dark Knight Indoor Coaster and the Justice League Shooting Dark ride. Third, as of December 2023, the gift shops where you buy the Flash Pass have a note saying that both Justice League and the Dark Knight are closed due to restrictions from the Mexican government. I assume this is a remnant from the COVID-19 restrictions, but it was never updated on the signage, because both rides were available on the service when I visited. Fourth, neither the Crazy Andy Frisbee nor Wonder Woman Free Spin Coaster are included in either tier Flash Pass. The Flash Pass kiosks do advertise they sell a very limited quantity of single shots for these 2 rides, but I have never seen them offered in my visits to the park, so I'm not sure how frequently this is available. Fifth, you will notice that several rides have a VIP entrance. This can easily be confused with Flash Pass, but it's something else. The VIP experience costs 2,500 pesos, or roughly $143. This also includes admission, so you save roughly 1,000 pesos, or $56 if you purchase once inside the park. This grants you unlimited use of the Flash Pass lanes, plus access to the VIP lanes on several other rides. It is worth noting that Wonder Woman, Crazy Andy, and Kilauea are included, but they are each one time only. While the park can get long queues, it is not the fault of the operators. Across the board, this park easily has the fastest crews of any Six Flags park. Part of that is the staffing. The crews here were quite large. I have seen 8 people checking restraints on Medusa in a past visit, but the staff members they have all work quickly. This park prioritizes capacity almost to a fault. If you are a single rider, beware. If the ride attendants notice you are a single rider and they spot an empty seat, they often will ask you to move so they can load another group of 2. I got burned by this on Superman. I had waited an extra 6 to 7 trains for the front row, but I was told I had to join a single rider a few rows back. At another point on Medusa, I sat down in the back, but I was told to join another single rider in the middle of the train. This didn't always happen, but it happened a few times. It is also worth noting the employees here staple quite hard. If the lap bar is not firmly in contact with your thighs, you will be denied. This most severely impacts 3 rides. First, many people are flat out turned away from Medusa, but not for being too large. The restraints have the same max position as other RMCs. Rather, many small kids and thin guests were denied. If there is a gap between your thighs and the restraint, you cannot ride. Employees go as far as sliding a hand between your thigh and the bar to verify this. Second, the lowest point for the restraint on most Morgan Hypers is shockingly high above the laps of most riders. Superman's trains are different. The minimum verify is roughly around this point. Then the restraints can go all the way down to the seat, meaning you can and likely will get stapled. Third, the employees on one of my rides on Joker were instructing all adults to cross their legs. This allowed the lap bar to go down even further. But the issue on Joker is that it has T-bars. So if you cross your legs, the metal central column can squash your ankles and result in an uncomfortable ride experience. Another operational policy is that a few rides have assigned seating. The coasters most impacted by this are Batman the Ride and Medusa. On Medusa, staff members will strictly assign seats from front to back if the line is minimal. This happens most frequently at the very start and end of the day, when the coaster is often a walk-on. If the ride has a queue, you are free to select any row you'd like when you reach the station. On Batman, staff members assign rows, and more importantly, this means you are assigned to a train. On most rides, there is not much of a difference between two trains, but there is a colossal difference on Batman. This is a Vekoma SLC, which does not track the best. One train has new vest restraints. This train completely eliminates headbanging and offers a pleasant ride experience. The other train is bulky over-the-shoulder harnesses. This train offers plentiful headbanging, and it ruins the experience. I recommend either timing your entry into the Flash Pass line, or deliberately allowing people to pass you in the standby line if necessary to ensure you get the train you desire. If you do have loose articles or bags, some rides unfortunately do have mandatory lockers. This is a similar policy to several Six Flags parks stateside. These lockers not only have an additional fee, but they are not always near the attraction. I've never had to use them, so I do not know how much they cost. So how should you tour this park? There are 4 additional considerations before I give my recommended plan. 1. Some rides open late. From what I've seen, the rides in the back in the DC Universe section tend to open 30 to 60 minutes after the park does. 2. Some rides close early. Usually Six Flags parks keep all queues open until close, and Six Flags Mexico usually does this, but there is no consistency. I have seen them close Superman's queue line early a few years ago on a day when it had a minimal wait, but in my recent visit, they kept Superman's queue open until close, even though it was running just one train and had a sizable wait. I have also seen them close Superman for an hour midday for an ERT session, which was another thing entirely. 3. Weather can impact your visit. It can rain a lot in Mexico City, particularly during the rainy season between May and September. From what I've seen, the park will run their major rides even in rain, and they don't seem to close early like other parks in the chain. However, the park will close rides in a thunderstorm understandably. These occur quite frequently in the afternoon during the rainy season. 4. The time of year impacts whether rides are running at full capacity. In short, if you visit during a busier period, rides will be running at full capacity. I have seen this during my summer and Christmas in the park visit. But when I visited in late January, most coasters were operating with just one train, including Superman and Medusa. This caused their waits to move slowly, even with the crews loading guests quickly. These 2 rides are also impacted in other ways by capacity. Superman can run 3 trains. If there is a train parked in the station and another stacked in the final brake run, the mid-course trim will very noticeably trim the 3rd train. This significantly weakens the airtime on the return run. The crew does work fast, so this doesn't happen too frequently, but it can happen. If you visit on a quieter day when the coaster runs just 1 or 2 trains, you don't have to worry about this. Medusa does something different. Instead of regularly going down to 1-train operations, they remove 1 car from each train. So it runs with 5-car trains instead of 6. This reduces the capacity, but not as much as removing a full train. And it still allows them to perform their annual maintenance. The coaster still runs great, but it does lose a bit of power in these conditions. It's a weird sight to see, as the only other coaster I know of that routinely runs a shorter train on quiet days is Olympia Looping. I would recommend a full day at this park, so assuming you have that, how should you tour this park? First, my favorite time of year to visit is Christmas. Not only do you have a comfortable climate and rides operating at full capacity, but the park has long hours and beautiful lights strung throughout the park. If you arrive at opening and are at the front of the rope drop crowd, I would recommend starting with a front row ride on Superman. The queue for this row specifically can back up significantly later in the day. I have seen it go 15 to 16 groups deep at worst. What happens next depends if you purchase a Flash Pass. Again, I highly recommend the Flash Pass, but I know not everyone wants to buy one. If you are purchasing a Flash Pass, I would then recommend knocking out the 4 most popular rides excluded from that service. So I would head to Kilauea. This drop tower often has a 45 to 60 minute wait. Get your rides on it now. I would then hit Crazanity since it's nearby. Once 10:30 hits, Wonder Woman should be open. Get a ride or two on it now. This ride often builds up a sizable queue by noon. Then I would ride Supergirl Skyflight. This is another highly popular flat ride not on the Flash Pass. At this point, I would purchase your Flash Pass and tour the park at your leisure. If you don't get a Flash Pass, the key change is to hit Joker in between Superman and Kilauea. Then I recommend going back to Medusa immediately after Supergirl. Now let's talk about the ride lineup. This park currently features 9 different roller coasters. The lineup is extremely top-heavy. You have 2 world-class headliners chock full of airtime. Then the rest of the lineup is filled with clones of varying quality. There are 2 notable gaps in this park's coaster lineup though. First, ever since they closed the original Medusa, this park has been without a wood coaster. Second, this park lacks a launch coaster. I would love to see one added in the future, especially because it would be unique to the region. Covering what they have, my favorite roller coaster here is Superman El Ultimo Escape. This hypercoaster is Morgan's final roller coaster, and is their best ground-up creation. A lot of that comes down to its uniqueness. This coaster starts with a quirky pre-lift down a hill with some airtime pops. Then the main layout starts with a large airtime-filled drop. This leads directly into a helix section combining great airtime and laterals. I particularly love the big camelback offering some scary ejector airtime and lateral simultaneously. Then the return run has some glorious floater airtime, as long as you are not trimmed. I have a full review going more in depth, but this is such a fun, diverse coaster. Medusa Steel Coaster is the other star coaster. This is an RMC hybrid coaster. While it is one of the smaller ones, this ride has lightning-quick pacing. You charge from one element to the next. There are some powerful ejector airtime moments, particularly on the turnarounds and the off-axis hill in the woods. The directional changes then throw in some sharp lateral jolts as well. Then the 3 inversions offer fantastic hang time. This includes the world's first barrel roll down drop, and the elongated barrel roll at the very end. I also have a separate review for this ride, and the original layout makes it stand out from the other RMCs. Moving on to the clones, there are a trio of thrill coasters. Wonder Woman is an S&S free spin. This one has a good amount of flips, as I regularly get 4 or 5 on each side. The front side offers the flips on the drops and bunny hills. The back side offers the flips and the Raven turns, which I personally find more disorienting. This ride is short, but it's a chaotic experience. Batman the Rise, the park's Vekoma SLC, is a compact and intense layout with 5 tight inversions. It is rough around the edges, but it's perfectly tolerable in the Vest train. In the older train, it is not a pleasant experience due to the headbanging, and it probably becomes the worst coaster in the park, so may the odds ever be in your favor when it comes to train choice. Boomerang is a historic coaster. This was the first Vekoma Boomerang ever built. Despite its age and aero train, it is thankfully not too rough if your head is above the restraint. The drops offer a nice tummy-tickling sensation. Then all 3 inversions offer crushing positive Gs, and they're particularly disorienting going backwards. Then this park has 2 fantastic family coasters. Joker is the best Gerstlauer spinning coaster. If your car is even slightly off balance, it'll spin like a top. The hairpin turns at the start get you rotating. Then the finale is quite wild. You have some surprise airtime moments, which is a treat for this type of ride, and you also have a themed tunnel. Dark Knight is an indoor mock Wild Mouse. The darkened environment and theming enhance the otherwise standard layout. The hairpin turns offer good laterals, and the dips at the end offer some light bits of airtime. And this one has some additional theming pieces in the queue line that you do not get in the US installations. Then there are two junior coasters. Tsunami is a Zero Tivoli coaster with a comically long train, so you get some nice whip on the first two drops in the rear row. Then this ride interestingly is located underneath a giant pyramid. Superman Krypton coaster is a Vekoma roller skater. It is a mild experience, but it is a smooth and comfortable ride for guests of all ages. On that note, this park has two sizable children's areas. The rides in DC Super Friends more comfortably accommodate adults on average. Then Bugs Bunny Boomtown has the smaller flats for the youngest of guests. There's also a large play area in the center for kids to run around. Moving on to the adult flats, this park is a nice collection. There are a handful of decent spinning rides about the park. This park also has a notable Ferris wheel in Rueda, India that offers great views, but it has been standing but not operating for years. I suspect that may be the aftermath of an accident in 2019. Hopefully this ride reopens in the future, but I am skeptical because it is off the website. Related to that, this park has unfortunately removed a few unique flats recently, such as the Huracan Topspin, the Catapulta Inverter, and the Pina Loca Flipper. The pineapple centerpiece from the latter is still visible in the park though. But fortunately, there are several rides still standing that should not be missed by thrill seekers. Kilauea is a trio of S&S drop towers. This one operates in combo mode, meaning you get both a launch and a drop. The launch timing caught me off guard, but the airtime at the top was fairly minimal. I preferred the drop by far. You get some stunning views of the area from the top, then the plunge offers an airtime pop and a brief stomach drop sensation. And it's also worth noting this ride has a stunning multicolored lighting package at night, as the entire tower is lined with LEDs. Supergirl Skyfly is the park's tallest ride at 242 feet, or 74 meters in height. This Funtime Starflyer allows you to see for miles in each direction. It runs a long cycle, but it does rotate slower than other rides of its kind, presumably so it's easier to admire the view. Crazanity is a Zamperla Giga Discovery. This was unfortunately closed on my most recent visit, but assuming it runs like the other installations in the chain, this ride should be a forceful blitz. The max swings typically offer several seconds of floater airtime. Then the down swings juxtapose that with immense speed and strong positive Gs. There are also two notable Upcharge flats. These are priced similarly to their counterparts in the US. X-Flay is one of the larger sky coasters out there at 200 feet, or 60 meters in size. You have similarly great views as the park's other tall rides. Then you have the anticipation of pulling your own ripcord to initiate the thrilling freefall. Slingshot launches you airborne. The ascent is suspenseful, but it's not too intense. But at the apex, you get one or two flips, which is the best part by far. On that note, this park also offers a year-round haunt. This too is an upcharge, but it's much more reasonably priced, and it's a surprisingly long experience of 7 to 8 minutes in duration. The scares are predictable, but the actors are plentiful and animated. When I did it in 2023, it was themed to the Scream franchise. I have not done this park's Festival del Terror Halloween event though, so I cannot comment if the park's other mazes are the same level of quality. For traditional dark rides, this park is one, but it is a good one, and that is none other than the Justice League Battle for Metropolis. It is similar to the US installations, just dubbed in Spanish. This one does seem to have some issues though between broken guns and downtime in my recent visit, but when it works properly, it is a great shooter. The ride uses the DC Comics IP well, as you have plenty of on-screen targets and some physical transitions in between. Last but not least, let's talk about this park's water rides. These are welcome additions given the climate. Rio Salvaje is the best of the bunch. This is a secluded Intamin River Rapids ride. The rapids themselves are fairly mild, but there are plenty of other ways to get wet. There are some themed sprayers towards the start. Then there's a nearly unavoidable waterfall at the end that'll soak a majority of the boat. This feature was active even in my December visits. Aquaman is a Hopkins shoot the chutes. It is a simple layout, but the drop is zippy and the resultant wave is colossal and drenching. Then there is also a twist and splash in Bugs Bunny boomtown named Pato Lucas Blaster. This can get you quite wet if it's fully loaded, and onlookers are manning the nearby water guns. This park does not have an attached water park like so many Six Flags parks. Instead, it heavily markets Hurricane Harbor Oxtepec, which is an hour south of the park. The higher tier season passes will grant you admission to this park as well. In terms of shows, Six Flags Mexico has some character shows. I particularly like the ones on the central stage because you can catch bits of it while strolling the midway. Games at this park are fairly similar to what you'd expect at a US park. Although at one point, this park had a unique game where you'd ride a skateboard down a half pipe and try to dunk a basketball. I can't say I've ever seen that one before. Moving on to the food, this park is a mixed bag. The Mexican-style dishes in Pueblo Mexicano are fantastic. It is some of the best food from any Six Flags park, and I highly recommend them. I particularly love the sandwiches from Taqueria Jacaranda and the Spanish-style churros around the corner. As a bonus, these restaurants stayed open a half hour after the park. Meanwhile, the American-style fare deeper in the park is atrocious and should be avoided. If you have a dining plan, it is accepted at this park. You can go straight to the dining location where you want to use it and present your pass as normal. Snacks are marked with an S as usual, but meals are marked with a C. It is also worth noting it's quite easy to get water at this park. Bottled water is sold at all dining locations, and you can also purchase it at the gift shops. It costs roughly $1 US, so it's very reasonably priced. All throughout this review, I have noted some key differences from other Six Flags parks. Arguably the most obvious is the language barrier. Most staff members here only speak Spanish. Very few employees speak any sort of English, and most signage is exclusively in Spanish as well. I speak some Spanish, so I haven't had too much trouble getting around. That being said, things are fairly intuitive if you visited another Six Flags park, so don't let the language barrier scare you off from visiting. So, do I recommend Six Flags Mexico? I sure do. This is a really good park, and one of the better ones in the chain. It is definitely among the most unique of the Six Flags parks. I absolutely love the theming, the atmosphere, and the dispatch speeds compared to the other parks in the chain. Then this park is an elite top 2 with both Superman and Medusa's Steel Coaster. There is a significant drop-off after that, but there are still some enjoyable supporting coasters and strong non-coasters across the park. I definitely don't have trouble filling a day here. A full day is sufficient for this park, but I completely understand wanting a second day at this park for re-rides if you're coming from a distance. Maybe for your second day, visit a smaller park nearby like Hasbro City in the morning, and switch to Six Flags Mexico in the afternoon. So those are my thoughts on Six Flags Mexico. What are your thoughts about this park? Have you been there? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.